You're what the Lord has done. So many reasons to lift up Jesus.
This is Senior Pastor Jamaal Bernard from the Christian Culture Center, and I want to welcome you to today's message. Wherever you're listening from, at home, in the car, or on the move, I believe this message is going to challenge, inspire, and help you grow. Now let's get into today's message.
My sister finds a journal under her bed after she passes away. She passes away at the age of 55 from terminal breast cancer.
Wow.
My sister finds a journal under her bed, and in her journal, she's praying to God to save all my kids, talking about each one of them. And she gets to me in the journal, and she's telling God to knock him off of his throne and save him. So I'm living the legacy of what she prayed for. You know, and that's why I tell mothers all the time, keep praying, because, you know, it's not up to you. It's up to God to hear the prayers of the righteous. And I come full circle. You know, God knocks me off my throne and saves me and transforms me and changes me. And I go through this experience, you know, in 91 where I got saved at the crusade. But I come out of the crusade on fire and talking about Jesus. Now I get publicly persecuted by the media.
I remember that.
They publicly persecuted me and said, oh, now he's soft and he doesn't play baseball with the passion and the intensity level no more. I was going through this whole thing in California when and my first month of the season, I run into the wall, make a play, and I run into the wall and I dislocate my shoulder. Okay, I've never been hurt. You know, I've been hurt, but I never started off the season. This is my first year in L.A.
Signed a big contract.
Accepted Christ. Now run into the wall and dislocate my shoulder. Now, what happens is there was no discipleship for me.
All right.
Okay, I got saved, but no discipleship.
Yeah.
So guess what? I ran into the wall, and I went back. I went back to drinking. I went back to womanizing, and I was out for another, good 15 years, you know, lost in sin. Because I went back. Because I missed the most important part of a Christian life, discipleship. You know, because the Bible makes it clear about, you know, how we are. My people perish because of lack of knowledge. I went back to perishing because I had lack of knowledge. I had no knowledge, no understanding of God's word, God's will, and his ways. So guess what? If you don't have any understanding of it, you're going back to the familiar. And it's there. You know, the enemy's right there waiting for you to come back. So I went back, and I was out there. And I was out there for a long time, lost in sin and lost in every avenue of life that you want to call it. It was there. It was not faith. You know, it was my own will. Didn't have enough strength, to get back. So it wasn't until my wife Tracy came into my life, and then the Lord used her to lead me back into church. There's something about those women God has used to straighten you out.
I know, right? I say the same thing. It's something about the women, whether it's your mom or your wife, God has used one of them to straighten you out. So, all this is going on, right? And I love the story about discipleship, because I tell everybody, I said, look, I think the church wouldn't have gotten as hit as hard as it did during COVID if people were being discipled. I think we would have came out even stronger after a situation like COVID. So, I think it's a great point when you look at discipleship and the need for discipleship. So here it is: you get saved, jack up your arm, shoulder gets dislocated, go back into the very thing that that you were trying to run from. And how many years later? Like exactly how many years later?
Well, it had to be close to maybe 14, 15 years.
Wow.
Lost. I would go through a tremendous nightmare of life, of suffering. With health problems, cancer, having cancer twice and losing my left kidney in my second surgery.
So you had cancer twice.
Yes.
So you just you've got storms. These are storms. Cancer twice, losing your left kidney.
Losing my left kidney in the second surgery, and then ending up in a Florida State prison with a T-17169 because of addiction. And I always say, God was doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. I mean, I can see that now.
Now.
But I couldn't see it at the time. And I didn't know it was a plan, but God knew it was a plan, which was really cool. And at the end of the day, he always has the last say over the situations, especially those that have been prayed over and covered. And the covering of my wife and my mother was always important in my life for people, because like I said, my wife Tracy would be the one eventually lead me back into the church. But what people don't understand is she led me back into the church and we was not married, boyfriend and girlfriend, at the time. And she we were shacking up, and she woke up one day, and she says, I just really can't do this anymore. She says, I said, what do you mean? She said, I need to talk to you. I says, okay, I'm here. She says, well, I'm not going to sleep with you and have sex with you anymore, and I'm not going to live like this. I was like, what? And she said, no, I'm not going to do this. She goes, I'm going to follow Jesus. I don't know what you're going to do.
So God grabbed her life up at different time and different level than with you.
He pulled her.
She has a testimony herself.
Yeah, he pulled her out of it.
She's come from some stuff herself.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he pulled her out of that relationship with me so we wouldn't be together, because I had to leave, because she was like, well, I'm not living this way, and I think you should leave, And I left and went back to stay with my sister Regina and her 3 kids in a 2-bedroom apartment in New York. I was $3 million in debt, didn't have a driver's license. I was in the midst of addiction, and I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. And I know I went to my sister's house, and I just remember the first night I got down on my knees and set the Bible on the bed and got down on my knees, because me and Tracy had broken up, and got down on my knees. I went down to pray, and then I heard God says, I've been waiting for you.
Wow.
And I lost it.
So you had $3 million in debt. So was it the debt? Was it, what drove you to your knees? Was it missing Tracy? The sex was good, and now, okay, I got to get this back. I was empty. This church thing, you were empty.
I was empty. I was completely empty. And that was the place of surrender.
Yeah. That's
when I surrendered. And I got on my knees, and he says, I've been waiting for you. And I lost it, and I cried. And I was like, God, I'm so sorry. And I just didn't, oh God, I just like cried, laying there with snot running out my nose. Ugly cry. And it just for hours, just crying and just so sorry. Mm-hmm. And from that moment there, I went forward, and then the transformation started to take place. I stayed in that place for like 6 months. I stopped drinking, I stopped drugging, I stopped sex, I stopped all these other things. And I went back.
So this was without rehab. You didn't go to rehab or anything like this?
No, I didn't
God just caught your life at this.
Caught my life. I had been to all the rehabs you can go to. So this is a point he just caught me in my life where it was just me and the Bible.
Yeah.
And I saturated myself for 6 months.
Wow.
Away from everybody in the Bible. I went back home to the church that I was, the Baptist church that I was going to. I went back home to the family and the people that I knew there. Of course, they loved me back to life, welcomed me. And what I started doing, I started going up to the church. I started going to help feed the homeless on Thursday. I was going to Bible study on Wednesday, and I was in church on Sunday. Okay? And I went through this process for 6 months, and God would accelerate me and Tracy back together to go be together and do it right and get married. So I go back and get married to her. Now we get in church. Now I sit for 7 years. 7 years of discipleship.
Yes.
See, people don't want to do this stuff.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. God was like, you need to sit.
Yeah.
I don't want you sitting in the front of the church. I want you sitting in the back of the church.
Yeah. Or it's not a lot of work, or that's a lot of time, man,
Yeah.
I need immediate gratification.
Yeah. Well, I was out there forever.
Yeah.
He waited for me forever. Mm-hmm. See, people don't think of how long God waits for them.
Good. Yep.
They only think, well, this is just too long. Like a lot of guys were saying to me, man, I can't wait 7 years. I said, it's whatever. I didn't say he was going to have you waiting for 7 years. Yeah. I said, it's whatever he has for you. Yeah. He has for you. You'll learn that through that process. And I did. I didn't understand it at the beginning, but as I started growing and growing and growing and growing, I started to understand why he was sitting me for so long, why he sat me for so long. Because he knew that he was going to use my life as a living testimony for him, but he had to make sure that I was equipped with the word, that it had it down in my belly and not my head, that I would be able to use it and know how to defend the enemy off. Because he didn't want to put me in a pulpit without being equipped, because he knows the enemy is going to kill you. He knows he's going to destroy you.
Yeah, you're seeing some of that with some of these young, quickly emerging pastors that are running out there and getting caught up.
You can easily get caught up. See, the thing about it is, I think what God knew about me is that I wouldn't get caught up anymore because I've already lived the platform. It was not like I'm chasing after the platform.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm chasing after, I gotta go buy me a Bentley, to look good. The car ain't gonna make me the car ain't gonna change me.
Yeah.
You know, God was trying to change me and get me away from all that thinking that all this stuff that I accumulate is gonna make me wealth, because it's not. I already had it.
Yeah.
You can't fool me. You can fool somebody else in it. I mean, not saying there's anything wrong with having stuff. Don't get me wrong.
I agree with you also. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just
some of that stuff is nice.
Yeah. It is, but I'm just saying for a standpoint of where
you were at the time,
where I were and where I was coming from. I didn't need all that. I already had all that. I already had the fashion life. I already had. Well, you know, whatever, you know, we see celebrities today and we think they have it all together. And I already had all that, but I didn't have what I needed to get. Was on the inside of me. I needed to be free.
Yeah.
And
a guy by the name of Dr. Darryl Irvin, he said, the deeper the water, the deeper the well, the wider you can water. And and looking at what you're doing and how God took you to a place where you make sure that the well was deep with knowledge, love, and revelation of Christ.
Right.
And now you're watering. You're traveling around the globe, preaching this message as a living testimony. It's an amazing thing. And so I value those 7 years. Personally, I didn't even live it, but I value those 7 years that you went through, growing and whatnot.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, because it's made me. It's made me the man that I am today. It's educated me biblically to study the Word, not to show myself approval, but just to study it because I fell in love with the King.
Yeah,
and it made me walk with Him and made me learn how to trust Him, because I preach a message all the time about when things happen, who do you trust?
Yeah.
And do you really trust Him? Do you really say you trust Him? Because things are going to happen.
Yep.
You're going to have some financial problems. You're going to have job loss, kid problems. Reality is going to hit you.
Yes.
But where's your trust? And that's where that Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 come in. And in my life, and that's what I live by. I live by the Scriptures because that's what helps me fulfill the promises over my life. It's living by them, because if I live by the natural, that's going to pass.
Yeah.
The natural of all this is going to pass. Like my baseball career, that's pass away. You got to take that uniform off one day. And then who are you?
Yes.
See, this is what people fail to realize. You got to take that crown of uniform and whatever celebrity status off of you one day, and then who are you? Because you're gonna have to deal with you. Yeah. And that's one thing that I've learned through this whole process. Dealing with yourself is a lot of work. It's a lot of work that you have to allow yourself to be chopped up and have surgery. And cleaned out on the inside, so you can be renewed. And I always say, the people say, well, why are you like you are? I says, well, they'd be like, well, how did you find Jesus? I said, Jesus has never been lost. Yeah, right. I was the one lost. I was the one.
Jesus knows where He is at all times.
At all times. I'm the one that's lost. You know, it's like, and then when you understand that, and then you have that relationship with Him, now you know you've been rescued, redeemed, and restored. Yeah, through that process.
There's so much I want to talk to you about. There's just a journey with you and your wife. Just how are you fathering now? Looking at you raising your own kids and what type of environment. But before we get there, I really got to look at we're in a place where, especially younger generation, talking about mental health and the awareness of mental health and looking at trauma and the brokenness. And then now you said you had to go to your father and ask your father to forgive you, and he was a lot of the source of the trauma. How did you navigate that journey?
Yeah, that's a good question there, because mental health and mentally you'll be destroyed behind all of that, and you're not sure if you can go on and conquer. But I'm here to tell younger generation people you can. Yeah, you can go on to conquer life situations after trauma, after abuse, after rejection. Yeah. I'm a prime example of someone that has went on and picked myself up. But you have to pick yourself up. You can't stay there and you can't say, well, I'm a victim. Yeah. You can't stay in that victim mentality. I'm not a victim. I'm an overcomer. I kept telling myself I'm going to be an overcomer in this life. But I had to do something to get to that place. And what I had to do was I had to go extend grace to my father. The grace that was given to me, I had to extend it to him so I can get free. And I think that's what happens to so many of us. We won't forgive. Forgiveness was not for him, it was for me. That's why That's why I stayed broken all those years, because I wouldn't forgive him.
Yeah.
And when I forgave him in that hospital bed, not only did I forgive him, but I led him to the Lord, too, in that hospital bed. And 6 months later, after that, he would die and go home and be with the Lord. So it was a whole package deal.
Yeah.
Wrapped around in all of that, you know. And I think a lot of times we don't see that in life. We don't see it until we actually surrender ourselves, you know, to God himself. We have to surrender ourselves to God himself for us to be able to get through that, whatever is that buffer that's inside of me, the thorns that's in my flesh, you know, because it's there to get it out. You know, you're telling God to take it, and he says, no, my grace is sufficient for you. You know, I'll get to that for you, but,
Relax, Paul.
Yeah, but I need you to do something here. I need you to do something here so I can use you mightily, you know, in a different way. And that's what I had to go through. I had to extend that forgiveness so I can receive freedom. Yeah. And when I did that with my father, man, I tell you, a fresh anointing came over my life. I was so free. I was like, the burden, the heaviness was off me, you know, because I finally let that go. Yeah. And mentally, I was never the same again. Because I think what happens is we drive ourselves mentally to stay mentally, emotionally dysfunction inside, and then they want to medicate you and say, take this pill. This will help you and you'll feel better. You know, because they did me that way. And they were like, he's bipolar, this, polar, and that. Man, I ain't been no polar. I ain't been on no pills, you know, since I experienced all that and I got free from, I'm letting that go in my life and becoming, you know, the man that, you know, I always thought I should be.
Now, because this is a generation of therapy. What was your therapy? Because therapy doesn't necessarily mean sitting down, you know, with the one-on-one with the therapist, but there's some outlet that helped you navigate this as well. What would you consider your therapy was?
I think my therapy was people. Okay. You know, gathering around with good people with who had been through something, but also had overcome. Yeah. You know, but because if you're with people that tell you they haven't been through anything, you need to run. You know, you need to just straight run because they're lying. You know, they don't want to tell you that they've had some shortcoming in their family, some dysfunction. And if you've been around people that have experienced that, they have great wisdom, you know, for you, wisdom and knowledge for you. They help you understand you're not alone. Yeah. You know, because we sit here and we think we're all alone, and you know, oh, you've had all these problems, you know, and mine was public, you know, it was Darryl Strawberry, back page, New York Post, you know, Daily News, you know, falling short and everything, and so I had to have people around me who had some challenges themselves, and didn't stay there. Yeah, I think that really helped me out a lot to see that. To be able to see that you're not alone in this. Everybody has something that they got to go through.
Yeah, no, that's good. You know, and you know, looking at now you have your wife, right? Because one of the things I tell my dad is, you know, no matter what he's done with the way he was fathering me, he did a great job because he didn't have an example, right? And you know, and then as being a husband, he did a great job because he didn't have the example, and so now here it is. You're being a husband for the second time, right? Because you know you messed up the first one.
Messed up the first two.
Oh, the first two. Yeah. Oh man, you know, first two. Now so God give you a third time.
Do your third. You know? 3 strikes, you out, baby.
You know, and now you're fathering. How was it shifting? You know, to being a husband at this level?
It was a process. You know, it was a process to get to that place, being a husband, father, and understanding the important values of home life. Because I didn't have it and didn't see it, so I had to really work hard at it. And what I mean by that, I had to really work hard at not being crazy and talking crazy. You know, and thinking, you know, this is just the way it is. Well, I'm the man, you know, I take care of you guys. Well, okay, fool, that's what you're supposed to do. Yeah. You know?
Say that again, because some of these men need to hear that, you know?
I just had to examine myself. Yeah. You know, because I was on that place of always, you know, saying things and coming out of my mouth slick and slide to the wife, you know. It's like, I take care of you, and, you know, it's like, and the Spirit of God just kept checking me and saying, well, you're supposed to do that.
Yep.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And I would say things and be mad in the family life and relationship and stuff, and think to myself, and I would go back and I get convicted, and start thinking, that's not how you're supposed to act.
Yeah.
You're supposed acting as a man doesn't mean just because you bring home the bread. You're supposed that's your job, man.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Where'd you get that from? We got that from a society and a culture. It makes me bad. And I tell her, no, you're not telling her. You're degrading your family.
Mm-hmm.
And you're degrading yourself.
Yeah.
And I started to learn how not to say things.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that was you don't have to win every conversation. Because, see, we think we have to win them.
Yeah, that's what I'm struggling with.
Yeah.
I struggle with that, yeah.
I pulled myself away from that. I used to struggle with that. I don't have to win every conversation. I don't have to have the last say.
Yeah.
Because I started to realize how women are. They can out-talk you all day long.
Mm-hmm.
And if I just go and let her talk and go on about my business, it's going to be over. And that's
you're an older gentleman. I can't say that right now in front of so many people, but I agree.
It's a hard thing. It's a thing that we have to learn.
Yeah.
And it's what we all have to go through. And then you realize as you get older, I'm older now, 62. I realize that, I got to stay at peace.
Yeah.
With myself. After all, I've experienced enough, trauma in life.
Yep.
Just dealt with my last bout of my heart attack, which was a massive heart attack 4 months ago.
So 4 months ago you had a heart attack?
A massive heart attack 4 months ago. And I realized more than anything after having a heart attack that this life is short. And there's no need for me to go through this life with anxiety, fear, doubts, and all that stuff no more. After experiencing what I experienced, going into the hospital, my heart was at 40%, and then going through the procedure, and they saved me. Mm-hmm. I know it was the good Lord that had his hand on me, because my wife was going one way, and I was going the other way to have procedure done, and I said, Lord, this is in your hands, because there was nothing I could do.
Yeah.
I was at 40%, at my heart, and after the surgery, it was down to 32%.
How did you find out you were having a heart attack?
I was traveling on the road doing ministry, and my heart had been racing, and I almost, a couple of times at the airport, it's like I wasn't feeling well. I was out of gas or fatigue,
mm-hmm.
and all these other things, and tired, and then all of a sudden I went home, and Sunday, and my wife said, Monday we got to go in, and she went to work, and then she came home, and we went to lunch, and then I was fatigued again, and she was like, that's it, we're mm-hmm. going. And she took me in. She paid more attention to me than I do with myself. So I have this surgery, and the doctor says, well, you were in heart attack mode for the last 4 or 5 days. You were in heart attack mode for 4 or 5 days? Yeah. It was like, this just didn't happen. He says, because, looking at your heart, and you're at 40%, it's your main artery, and had to put a stent in and everything, and it got me back up and going. And but I learned something to that, because when I realized that I've had stuff before, mm-hmm. but this time it was my heart, and this controls your whole body and makes your whole body function. Mm-hmm. And my whole body, I didn't think I'd never walk again. I was nervous. I was afraid. I had to have a defibrillator on. I wore that for 2 months, and just in case, I needed to be shocked, it would bring me back. And I was like, this is insane. Yeah. And I started reflecting on life and saying, man, this thing has moved fast. Wow. You're at a whole different level now. So your appreciation for what this is and what you have left, make the best out of it. Don't be sitting around here arguing with people and debating with people and fighting with people. Yeah.
Thank you for listening, and if you want to hear the rest of this podcast, you can go to Off Script by Jamaal Bernard on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, as well as Spotify. Once again, thank you.
Thank you for listening to Senior Pastor Jamaal Bernard of Christian Culture Center. Download the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and visit cccinfo.church for more. We'd love to see you in person. Join us Sundays at 10 a.m. at our Brooklyn or Long Island campus.